I had the idea for this Genesis box a long time in my head. So today we're just gonna create it together. How exciting. So let's go. Starting with a cube of the classical default Blender itself, let's tap into the edit mode. Now you can see that this cube is really complicated. No, it's not. The very first thing we're gonna do is just gonna be very simple. We're gonna go to the modifiers and we're gonna add a modifier that is called bevel. This modifier smoothens the edges. The more subgrams we add, the more kind of really nice, and now this already looks more like a dice, but the more segments we add, the more curvy and nice it's gonna be. We can also add a segment to kind of make it, like more edgy or more rounded. And I think that around, yeah, let's keep the segments with one, and the amount to be, yeah, I think this is really cool already. And we're gonna apply it. We can't apply it in here in edit mode, so we need to tap out and apply again. So this is a change that we can't really, get back, but this is life, Whenever you commit, you can't go back. So there's no Control Z as in life. So let's have the face selection in edit mode of this cube. I'm gonna pick the very first plane of the cube. I'm gonna press I to inset and drag it inwards with the mouse. This can also be done with just putting a number in or your numpad. So I'm gonna go with 0.3. So that's exactly what we want. Unfortunately, we also need to do this for the rest of the sides. So let's go with the next one, I 0.3. The nice thing about Blender is that you can actually set the exact number, but you also have to remember it, right? So this is the way you do it. I 0.3. So this is the starting point of the whole thing. Now I'm gonna let's do another thing here. Let's press E to extrude, and we're gonna extrude it inwards. Again, I think something around 0.2 is enough. Minus though, 0.2. Again, E 0.2 minus E 0.2 minus, and the last one E 0.2 minus. Okay, so this is the way we got a really basics of the Genesis box. Again, shift holding it, select the faces that are just inside. I'm gonna press S for scale and scale it in a very nice and cute way inwards. So this is already really cool. Now we're gonna add a little bit of details to make it complete, right? So let's go with the Control R, which creates loop. Control R, and now whenever I place my mouse on the cube, it just suggests certain loops that it can create. And so we actually need one here in this position here. If I just adjust my wheel on my mouse, the more I just adjust it, the more cuts I get. And we need 2. So let's go with 2 and then left click. At this time we can also just scale it as just right after we can scale it, but if you press escape we can just get it as it is. So let's create another one here. Wheelchair, it's not wheelchair, it's wheel mouse. Adjust it to 2, left click, escape. So let's repeat that for all the sides. Of course, this can be done in a maybe a little bit of an easier way, but this is the way I prefer to do it, and I believe that there will be many Blender enthusiasts that will just tell me that this can be done with the mirroring and all the other crazy things that Blender knows and can do for you. So I just switched to the face selection. I'm gonna hold Shift and Alt and click on this little edge over here to get the whole loop. bam, bam, and this way we're gonna select all 4 sides, right? So this is the way we have it right now. And of course, we can play with the S to scale it. Again, we can scale it up or scale it inwards. What do you think looks better? What do you think looks better? I think it looks kind of cool if we scale it outside, like that. What do you think? I kind of like it. I kind of really, really like it. And so this is, having this now ready is really cool, because you will see later on why. And now let's tap out to the object, Shift A, we're gonna add a text. The text is right here, 7, top view, G, move it to the front of the cube, press 1, R for rotation, X to lock in X-axis, press 9, 0 on the cube, numpad, and press enter. If you tap into the admin now, we can, it's really funny how it works with text. If you tap into the text, we can just, write anything in here we want. I'm gonna go with the letter G. Let's go with the capital G. We can also tap out, but it's not really necessary. Now, the nice thing about a text in Blender is the properties of it, and especially the geometry here, where we can play with extrusion. Look at that. This is a super simple of getting just 3D text in general. We don't have to do these things manually. We can still modify it, which is really interesting, I would say. Let's now the extrusion of this doesn't really matter. We can let's keep it. Let's say this amount. And number 1, G to move it around. Place it in the middle of the square of the cube or the Genesis box. S to scale it, and let's make it a little bit smaller, so it's more kind of nice and clean. Number 7, top view, turn on the X-ray view so we can see the edges. Also G to move Y-axis, and now we can just pull it so it kind of touches and goes a little bit beyond the walls of the Genesis box. This is really interesting and enough already. And the basic setup for the Genesis box is ready. We can also add more details to our beautiful cube. So basically what I would probably do right now is setting some things here on the top to make it just a little bit more interesting. So we're gonna tap out. Let's just add Shift A, go with the mesh plane. It's a very simple thingy. Now we can go with number 1, G, Z, move it upwards. 7, tap, edit mode, scale it down. Let's say there's something around this. G, place it somewhere around here. Shift D to copy it, left click, which we just confirm it. Now if we press G, we got another plane here, and this one will be placed, let's say, around this place. We're gonna press S to scale. We can scale it in the Y-axis to make it just a little bit longer. And again, we're gonna press Shift D, confirm it, G, and let's place it something around here. Right now, we can again scale it. S. We're gonna scale it in the Y-axis to make it unevenly looking. So this is really nice. G. Now we can just G, and we can just place it somewhere so it's kind of, I think let's make it even smaller to get an interesting look. So this is cool. And now if we just look how it looks from the viewport, we can now do Shift A and extrude the whole thingy out, ourselves to get some volume with these planes. But we can also go to modifiers and add a solidify. Let's see how it works. So generate, and this is the solidify thingy. Again, in here we can add a thickness, right? So it just go up and down. So this is something that is really interesting, I would say, for the Blender, right? It's really cool. So this is enough. Okay, tab out. Now we got some details on the cube of ours on the top. And at this stage, again, we can fill all the other holes with another crazy thingy, signs or your logo. So that's totally up to you. And so at this point, we will get and turn the materials on. So first off, let's pick the cube itself. Go to the materials. And here we already have one. So this is gonna be the box material. Let's rename that. Just to keep ourselves organized. This is really not that necessary, but we need to be organized. And one other thingy, we'll do that later on, and you will see. So let's go with a really dark base color, because the more dark the environment and everything is, the more the things that we're gonna make shiny will actually shine. So in here we have the G. I'm gonna get a new material. This is gonna be the glowing material, and just go to the surface, click emission, and change a color. Let's go with some sort of nice, and let's do pinky. Let's do like really pinky color. We can also add a strength, but that's something that we can adjust later on. That's something that we can't really see right now when we just have this view. And so if I go to the render shading viewport, we can see that now there's not really anything shining, and that's because we are using the render engine of Eevee. This is the one that is more used, and usually is used for just the previews. And so right now we can, for example, see here that we are missing some materials on the top of the cube. So let's go to the materials of these details, and again we can pick the ones that we already created, which is the box, and now we can just have it a really nice black. So obviously if you want to have it glowing and really nice looking, we should choose the render engine of Cyclus, and now you can see that for example here the G is kind of really nicely shining inside. That is really cool, right? Let's click on the cube. The reason we added those faces here, the details, is because we also want these to be shiny. So I'm gonna go to the materials of this cube. We can add another one actually, one mesh object, so one of these can have more materials in there, and we're gonna pick the glowing material. Right now nothing is happening, of course, and that's because we need to click on assign. So any of the faces that you have picked here, and then click on assigning, we just basically got it assigned now on the faces that we picked before. So yeah, I know, right? This is cool. Okay, so let's add some of the environment, because this cube is now just flowing in there and it just looks awful. So tap out to the object mode. I'm gonna shift A. That is really important shortcut for all of you. Pick the plane. One front view, G, Z, lock it in the Z axis like that. Just place it somewhere around the cube. It doesn't have to be really that precise, but let's just, I think this is enough. Number 7, top view, tap, scale it. If I press 0, I can see the viewport of the camera. So this way we can either just, scale it as crazy far as we want, and just fill out the whole camera view, which is at this point kind of okay. And another thing that we would probably do is adjusting a camera, because this is just one of those angles that are just basically exactly it's just kind of default, and so it just doesn't give us that nice perspective of what we would probably want. So in here we can play with the camera rotation like this, right? And also this here, and this in this angle. And so let's just face it a little bit, yes, kind of up. We can press G to move the camera down like that. Now you can see that we are getting a little more interesting perspective, but at the same time, we are kind of also missing the background, right? And so to fix that, we're gonna create kind of an infinite background that is really needed at this point. So the way to do that would be switching to the edit mode of this plane. I'm gonna go with the vertices selection. I'm gonna pick this one, holding shift, and this one. So I have those three selected. I'm gonna press E for extrusion. Now you can see that we created some crazy walls in here. Of course, to make it precise, let's go with Z and lock it in this direction. And now just left click and confirm that. If we go 0, we can see that we got it fill it out. That is really cool, but of course it won't be looking really infinite because these corners would be really sharp. So the way to fix this would be adding a modifier. Of course, again, don't really get scared of these things because this is just, you know, the alpha and omega of Blender. So again, we're gonna use the bevel, the really, you know, favorite one, and we're gonna add the amount. So we're gonna make these corners right now. And of course, with adding the segments, you can see that suddenly we are getting really interesting results. And the really nice and last touch of this would be tap out to the object mode, click on the right, click right on that plane or the background and choose the shade smooth. So this way it's gonna be really smooth and no one will get really bothered with what is in the background. So let's just try to render this out, and you know, let's just in general see what we have right now. I don't know if your computer is that fast, but mine is really slow, so I always whenever I press render I just have an hour to rest and just work out. So I just did some push-ups. Okay, so this is basically the render of the state of the current state. In our scene we can see a really nice infinite background, but of course this shadow is probably way too harsh and you know, just really sort of edgy. And at the same time we also don't want this background to be this you know, light gray, which is also looking a little bit crazy. So this is something that we're gonna fix now. So let's get back to Blender. Okay, I will show you a few nice tricks with the lightings. It's just a discipline of itself, but let's just do the basics. So let's pick this light that is defaultly put in there by the Blender. I'm gonna press G and place in just to this side. So it's kind of a 90 degree from the view of the camera. As you can see, the camera is going from this way over here, and then the light is gonna be just 90 degrees from the angle of the camera. And the first thing we're gonna do is add the radius. So when I add the radius, you can see that there is this nice circle that is just getting bigger and bigger. So if we do something around 15 meters, it's gonna be really big and cool. And this radius, or adding the radius, is gonna make the light softer, so there will be softer shadows. So let's just keep it that way, because then we can play also with the power and the strong of it, but that's something that is gonna be for the later on. I'm also gonna rename this plane to background to be organized as I promised. And let's add a material to it. So now I'm getting the material for the background, and let's just basically take the base color and just turn it down, you know, to make it dark. Nothing really that, you know, difficult, I would say. So this is the first way. Just one light, dark background, and you will just see that it's gonna instantly improve the scene of ours. You know what, I'm just gonna render again. So again, it took some time, but this is just the perfect improvement, I think, from the scene before. We can see that the light is now from the left side. It's still a little weak, but we can add that later on. And so let's improve it even more. And that's gonna be the final stage of the scene. So another thingy with the lighting in general, in photography or any other field where, like cinematography as well, is this is a key light. This is what people call a key light. So let's do 3500. I think it's just a random number. Let's see later on if it's gonna improve. I'm gonna Shift D it, which gonna create a copy, and we're gonna place it on the other side, maybe a little bit closer like this. Number 1, G, Z, and just pull it downwards. So I think something around this place is gonna be interesting. This second light is gonna be called a fill light. So as you could see from the image on the left side, we actually didn't see anything. So that's why we need a fill light from the other side to compensate a little bit, even though it looked already really cool and kind of gloomy. And we're gonna just reduce the radius of it to, let's say, 5 meters. And let's keep it with a 1000. It's really hard to say right now how it's gonna look, because of course you would probably use something like this to see if the light is too much or too less. So I think it's too strong, so let's do just 500, or maybe even more, or even less. Even less. So let's do 200, to just really nicely fill the edges here. And the other light, 3000 maybe was too much. Let's do 500. Yes, this is really cool. And so the last touch for today would be just positioning the box so it's just a little bit, angled to the camera. Okay, so let's select those 3 objects, the cube, shift holding, getting a letter G, and also details of the cube. If we press R for rotation, now we can just rotate it any way we want. So let's go with 0 to see the camera view, R, Z, and now just let the G shine, I would say. And so I think something around this kind of would be nice. Okay, so this is it. Let's render it out, and congratulations, you just create your hopefully first Genesis box for your NFTs. I thought that we are already done, but it's not true. I just realized that we can make it even more interesting looking by just adding another light. Yes, I know there are too many lights already, but let's take the fill light, Shift D, 7, G, and position it kind of behind the box. Press number 1, G, Z, and drag it down. Again, we're gonna go with the radius of maybe just 1 meter. 0 to see the view of it. Gonna go with the render set. Oh, and now you can see that we have a really nice light from behind, and that's, I think, really interesting. And not only this color, but we can change the color, right? We can make it, let's say, and you know what? I will go with a really light pink color here, which gives it a really nice touch. And that's because the backlight usually creates a depth, so it kind of gives this whole Genesis box a really nice depth. So that's good. That's gonna be the backlight. And of course there's another thing that we can also adjust, and that's the glowing material and the strength of the emission. So basically if we add more of the strength, this is gonna be okay. You can see that 2500 was a little bit too much maybe, but you can see that it can go really into the extreme. And so let's do something around, like 2 or 3, depending on your taste. And so let's render this out. I'm really looking forward to see how it's gonna look. All right. Look at this Genesis box. The glowing G letter, the backlight, the cube itself. I know it's simple, it's low poly, right? But I just like these things. I don't know if you also like these things. I hope you do. But this is it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the tutorial. You can find the link to download the Genesis box that we just created together just down in the description. And of course, subscribe if you have not, and Thangys.